Good evening, friends. Welcome back to Through Literary Lens. Today, we have with us our own Dr. Vinod Asudani. All of you know quite well that he is a prolific writer, a literature communicator. And now, friends, let me congratulate Dr. Sahab for he is now double doctor. Vinodji,
Thank you.
hearty
Thank you very much.
congratulations
Thank
to
you
you.
very much.
You have received the second PhD. This is in psychology.
Yes.
A few days ago, you were conferred with the degree. So, from all of us, we wish you very best, and your psychological insights definitely they enlighten your literary work as well, and your commentaries as well.
Thank you very much, Rajesh ji, and thank you very much to all our viewers of this channel. Psychology and literature, they are intricately related to each other. There is
Yes.
psychology in literature, and literature has psychological touches.
All the literature is psychological, as we were discussing the other day. Uh, and in psychology, also, Sigmund Freud has famously said that it was not I who discovered the unconscious.
Yes.
The poets had discovered it long ago.
Exactly.
So now, with the combined insights of literature and psychology, I definitely believe that you would be a great asset to us all. And today, Dr. Saab,
Yeah.
we will hear a very beautiful poem from you, and then we would, I should not say dissect it, but we'll talk about it and we'll try to understand it in depth. So, without much ado, I would call upon you to recite your poem so that we can enjoy it and we can understand it and we can go deeper into it.
I am extremely grateful to you for giving me this opportunity to recite my poem. And for the benefit of our listeners, let me share this fact with you that this poem is included in my collection of poems,
Yeah,
Penumbra, which
Yeah.
is very much available
Yes.
on Kindle, Amazon. So the title of the poem is A Fragment of Life.
Oh, yes, a fragment of life. Yeah.
In heart of heart, we knew well that we would not come together ever. Despite, oh my dear friend, standing barefooted on seashore, under the twilight, you softly did hold my hand in yours and had uttered a few words, or perhaps had waged a war against your own feelings. In a fraction of second, your few words made me aware of mysterious meaning of my thousands of unwritten verses.
Oh, yes. Mysterious meaning of my thousands of my unwritten verses. Yeah.
My soul did have greater bliss than the slight my soul did have greater bliss with the slight touch of your chunari covered shoulder than the rishis are entitled to have from the sakshatkar and penance and meditation of centuries together. The best of Arabian perfumes were reduced to the state of insignificance before the fragrance of your body and soul. Our footprints had begun to appear on wet sand. Your fingers and my lips came closer and asked something in silence. And then my fingers and your lips replied to it. Neither of us understood anything. Perhaps, perhaps the first time intuition had defeated intelligence and feelings had registered a victory over intellect. God had granted only a fragment of life to us.
Wonderful. Extremely wonderful, Vinodji. Thank you for reciting this poem of yours. And friends, let us try to go deeper because, as we often say, that a piece of literature cannot be taken at the face value. You have to penetrate into deeper recesses of the creation to grasp not only its meaning, but I should say, really to imbibe the essence of any literary work. And that is partly our work. We try to bring the pieces of literature closer to us all so that they become a part of our life. They are a part of our life, as the title itself says, this fragment of life.
Right, this title at the philosophical level unravels the truth,
Yeah.
which is so familiar to all of us.
Yeah.
If we look at a life of any individual and if we compare it to the life of universe, it is just a millionth and billionth part of the length of the entire universe. So a fragment of life in itself is a philosophical statement.
Yeah, definitely. We, as Carl Sagan has very beautifully said it, that it's a pale blue dot. Earth is a pale blue dot.
And
Just
exactly, and 1 out of 8 billion, any individual amounts just 1 out of 8 billion.
that is the entire life. In that life, also many small happenings
Yes.
they do occur. So, as such, it is totally insignificant.
So the first thing that this poem tries to bring home is that the worth and value of any situation, incidents, or relationship is not to be measured that it is immortal,
Yeah.
it is very lengthy,
Yeah.
it is everlasting. That those notions have been rendered here
They are obsolete.
completely obsolete, powerless.
Because otherwise, our own entire life or the life of human race as such, that is a tiniest of the specks in the pale blue. That is dot that is in the ocean of the universe. If you compare it, it's totally insignificant.
So that is
So
what the
if you
title
may,
is
yeah,
telling about. That is a fragment of life. So whatever poet is going to say in this poem, he is narrating the intensity of the experience, which is compacted in a single moment, perhaps in even less than a moment.
yeah, you cannot even compare it to the whole life of that person, and we cannot judge this. You are very brought out a very salient point, Vinodji. When we judge anything, generally we apply these scales, that how big is it, how
Yes.
what impact it is going to have on my life, or as such holistic impacts. But no,
The experience of fraction of a second
yeah,
can have impact.
momentous value, that is tremendous value it can have for the individuals concerned.
And symbolically, if you look at the setting of the poem,
Yeah.
these two characters, the speaker and presumably his beloved,
Yeah.
they meet on the wet sand on
wet
the
sand.
seashore. Again,
Yeah.
again the sand particles, they tell you that fraction.
Our footprints had begun to emerge on the wet sand.
Yes,
Here written there
the
is a
sand is the
line.
symbol of the fragmentation, because sand is very insignificant.
And
For that matter.
any footprints emerging on the sand, they are going to be washed away.
Yes.
They are not permanent by definition. They are evanescent. So nothing. It doesn't have anything. Doesn't have the permanent impact, because there is a beautiful quote that we should not, think about the long run, because in the long run, all of us are dead.
Yes.
Yeah.
So poet simply wants us to forget the past. He wants us that we should not be preoccupied with the future, but we must devote ourselves to the single moment which is right now present.
And we can enjoy this moment. We can extract the full pleasure out of this moment. As the poem opens, Vinodji,
Yes.
the poet is aware that this meeting of theirs
Yes,
perhaps may
yes,
never be
yes.
repeated.
Yeah, that is very
Probably,
important.
yeah.
He does not entreat his
Yeah,
beloved
yeah.
to meet him again.
Yeah.
Like Robert Browning, he is aware that this is the last ride together. Perhaps the last meeting, last studying together, you can say.
Yeah. And then being fully aware of this thing, then poet implores the beloved and rather the beloved implores the poet hand in hand,
Yes,
right?
hand in hand.
So the message is communicated that we are together. Incantation is, woven.
And one more, the shade of meaning
Yeah,
emerges from this,
yeah,
that for this particular moment, they are hand in hand. So the communion of the two people, the perfect understanding, so-called perfect understanding, can occur not for the entire life, but it can occur for a few moments, or perhaps for a single moment sometimes, and that is very much endorsed and valued by the poet here.
and indeed it is valued because the foundation of all our institutions, including marriage, is the mutual understanding. But we know that mutual understanding is not a permanent thing. We value the moments in which we realize the mutual understanding, and those, moments form the basis of many of our long commitments and even institutions. But here the poet tries to capture those very moments without any preoccupation about any long term, implications or expectations and all those
And
things.
without our knowledge, although poem starts with some philosophical references
Yeah,
or interpretations, but gradually, softly, it moves into the realm of love, right? And
definitely.
the beloved says a few words. Perhaps she is waging a war against herself, and then poet proceeds to have described the impact of those words, and that impact is what?
That
Inspiration
is
for the.
inspiration, and here that beloved also, I think, has emerged out of the conflict.
Yes,
I know that is a
yes.
very key movement because, as we know, evolutionary biology tells us that as a rule, not always, but as a rule, females are much more reluctant to enjoy the moment because for them the intimacy is invariably interlinked with procreation.
Because at the very outset the poem makes it absolutely
Yeah,
clear that they are not going to meet again.
yeah,
So this is a first and last moment,
yeah.
and perhaps the female in the poem, she has to rebel against the socio-cultural condition,
Even the
that
biological
biological
ingrained
condition,
conditioning. Yeah,
that tells her that there has to be a longer commitment, long time commitment. But finally she comes out of that, and that hints that she is waging a war against all this conditioning, cultural conditioning, that weighs heavy on her
yes,
heart and soul.
yes. So this coming out on her part forms the basis of the, hypnotic trance, I should say, in
Yes.
which both of them find themselves, and gradually they come together. Their fingers, their lips, they are intertwined. The messages are communicated. Sort of love making takes place on the seashore, I should say.
And very importantly, although it is a one intense moment of
Yeah,
love,
yeah,
but its artistic impact, to
yeah.
which poet is hinting at,
Yes.
that it has inspired many countless unwritten verses.
That is indeed a key phrase in your poem. When he says that meaning of all my thousands of my unwritten verses became apparent, isn't it? So this the poetic potential of those moments is enormous, and the human care, the human concern, when ending of the Paradise Lost, one critic has beautifully remarked, when Adam and Eve are expelled from the heaven, they go hand in hand.
Yes.
This brings out two contradictory situations, according to that critic. On the one hand, human communion, human communication, human understanding is very much required in this earthly world. On the other, it is not possible at all for forever. It is not possible because we know how the expulsion from the heaven happened for Adam and Eve due to the apple and knowledge of the apple of knowledge. So then these two contradictory things, they are very much required. Human communication, communion is very much required, but at the same time it is not possible for the long run.
And again, although this perfect understanding, which may last for a second,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
This intensity of love,
Yeah,
which is there for some time, but the inspiration that it creates, that is going to last
yeah.
forever for the poet. And his poetry would derive sustenance, right? Would derive its
I
meaning,
mean,
would derive its value from the intense experience of this current moment. So that is the power of love, and this power of love would bring, sustenance, meaning to the poetry of the poet. And this is very important. He brings together, the happy marriage of love and art, which is a key concern in the poetry of many. If this love and art, they do not come together,
Yeah.
so perhaps the art remains incomplete.
Definitely. And from here on, again, the very two other important notions
Yes.
are expressed in your poem.
Yeah.
On the one hand, so-called religious bliss.
Yes.
You have counteracted.
Yes, poet says, my
that
soul did
religious
have
bliss,
greater
yeah.
bliss.
Then the rishis are entitled,
With the touch of your
Jewelry clad
shoulder. Then the rishis are entitled to have from
The
sakshatkar,
sakshatkar
penance and
penance,
meditation
yeah.
of centuries together.
So this segment, totally negates the importance of the religious bliss or mysticism, the mystical raptures, and by what? By simple touch of your chunari clad shoulder.
Again, the emphasis is on chunari covered shoulder.
Yeah,
Here
yeah.
it's not the simply touch of a body.
No, that is the slightest touch of the body in the garment. Chunari is a garment which is worn on the breast, on the
Shoulder,
chest, on the
shoulder.
shoulders, in the front part by the ladies in India
India.
particularly.
No, so if you look at the entire thesis of religion, that rishis and munis and monks, they indulge in penance.
Yeah.
They perform meditation for what?
So-called
have-
darshan, so-called sakshatkar,
Yes,
revelation.
of God. They want to have the darshan of God. They want to have the glimpses of divine, and that experience is considered to be the most blissful experience. Whereas the speaker in this poem says that slight touch of the chunari covered shoulder gives me greater bliss.
Greater rapture than these religious rituals.
Again, we are reminded of last night together,
Yeah.
where Browning rejects all other experiences: the experience of soldier, the experience of poet, the experience of sculptor, and he said the last right
Yes.
is more important, more valuable. So here again, the poet brings that paradigm.
Definitely. And here, why it is more important is that because here two human beings are in communion with one another. Their existences are integrated, maybe for a time being only,
yes.
but still their existences are integrated. They care for each other, they think about each other, they touch each other, they see each other, and they are for each other at that moment at least.
And then after this experience of bliss, then that bliss is acted out when
Yeah.
the fingers and the lips converse.
Yeah. And actually here, before moving ahead, Vinodji,
Yes.
one very delicate point, as you hinted also, that chunari clad shoulder.
Yes, that is very important.
While undressing also is very delicate. If you do it, if you cover it initially, I should not say the temptation, the attraction, the delicacy, it increases manifold rather than flaunting your bodies like a piece of exhibition.
So it is the imagination rather than the real experience that brings bliss.
Yeah. And definitely, I mean, it's not negating the real experience, but it is, it is contrasted with sakshatkar. So,
Yes,
poet
that's
has
very
not had
important.
sakshatkar,
That's very important. Because you need to understand
Yeah.
sakshatkar is
Sakshatkar.
religious
Yes.
expression,
Yes.
where the individual soul finally has the glimpses of the universal soul. That is sakshatkar. It is a meeting of a man with God.
Here the poem has not even had the full sakshatkar of his beloved. She has also not had the full sakshatkar of him. But
Exactly.
still the bliss is manifold.
So that expresses the power of love, power of coming together, and then some the physical actions, maybe kissing and caressing, they are hinted at. That fingers and the lips, they converse again, he says.
And in these actions, the poet says, perhaps for the first time, the feelings have repeated, the desire, and they are not weighed down by the heavy moral codes. What will the people think, or what will be the outcome of this? Who will see us? Who will not see us? And all those things.
Intuition had defeated intelligence, and the feelings had a victory over intellect.
This is particularly salient for the Eastern cultures, Vinodji. As I understand, in the Western cultures, the weight is not so heavy, socially at least.
Yeah, culturally they are not so conditioned.
Yeah. But in the eastern part of the world, sex is almost a taboo. It's not something socially given. It's
and
not,
it is unfortunately not elevated to the grand pedestal.
Yeah.
It is considered to be very degraded act. It is considered to be sometimes even unholy act,
Immoral,
immoral act.
sinful, unclean, all those things are
So
associated.
in traditional Christianity, it was like that.
Yeah,
In
yeah.
Catholicism, Roman
But
Catholicism.
particularly after the sexual liberation revolution of 60s, 1960s and all, people have come out of those shadows. Maybe they have come too much out of it, and
Yeah,
then
yeah. To the discredit of the
yeah,
Westerners, I
yeah,
can say that the too much emphasis
yeah,
is on the
on the physicality
physical
of it
element.
and indiscriminate, hooking up. Now the hookup culture, nowadays hookup culture is there.
Yes.
So this
So
is denigrating the actually,
actually, it
yeah,
reminds us of John Donne's
yeah,
approach
yeah.
towards love, when he says that the physical and spiritual, both the elements play equal part in love
Yeah. So
relationship.
if not the spiritual, at least the emotional bonding and at least all those things should be there before are nude before one another.
But again, we must remind
Yeah,
the
yeah,
viewers that
yeah,
poet does not desire,
yeah,
nor does he have hope that this relationship is going to be there forever
yeah.
or for a very long time in life. Because the last line, again,
Again,
God had
granted
granted
this
only a
fragment,
fragment
only a
of
fragment of
life to
life.
us.
So perhaps the poet is trying to freeze that fragment of life in a positive manner. The poet is not exploiting anybody else, nor eliciting the consent unfairly, and all those things are not there because it is the beloved who perhaps initiates, struggles with her thoughts, hand in hand they walk on the seashore, and sort of make love. So these are the things which are strike a fine balance between the physical and emotional aspect of it, and particularly given the current state of the technology, I think our society should evolve to this aspect. It should not err on the side of extreme either this way or that way.
So here you want to say
Yeah,
that Buddha's
madhyam marg. Yeah,
middle path
yeah,
has to be brought even
yeah,
in relation to
yeah.
the love relationship as well, romantic
Definitely,
relationship as well.
definitely. That
So
would elevate it to a level where it is pleasurable, it is enjoyable, as well as in this particular poem. It's okay that the poet does not hope or does not want the long-term relationship, but sometimes people do want. Sometimes it's not a sin to want it. Also, it's not bad to want it. Also, so once the parties make it clear to one another that whether it is just for this time or we hope to meet again and again, then it should be fine.
So thank you very much,
Yeah,
Rajesh, for shedding light on the complexity of this poem,
yeah,
and we hope that the viewers would understand this poem in a better manner. And we are waiting for your comments. We'll be back with some other discussion very soon.
yeah.
Till that time, take care.
Take care.